Okay, I'm back. Every time I've done a live stream that happens. The first time I get on, it crashes about 2 minutes in, and then when I get in again, it seems to work okay. So the massive audience that was on here before, like 2 or 3 people, they're no longer here. So hopefully they'll come back. But we're just going to start all over. Thanks for joining me. It's been a long time since I've done a little chat, and for whatever reason, every time I've done a YouTube live stream, it crashes about 2 minutes after I start, and then when I come back in, it seems to do okay. So I don't know what the deal is. Having said that, it's much more stable than Facebook Live, at least for me. So we were discussing the new Iron Maiden album. Just came out the end of last week. Senjutsu. Senjutsu, by the way, loosely translated, means tactics and strategy. And by the way, the second cut on the song is called Stratego. So kind of building on that whole tactics and strategy thing. As I mentioned, Steve Harris, heavy into the history, and it's no different on this. I had said earlier that my favorite Iron Maiden album is Peace of Mind, followed by Power Slave. Two just awesome albums. Is this one up there with those two? No, I wouldn't say it's as good as those. Is it as good as Number of the Beast? Probably not. But you know what? I would put it in maybe my top 5. Seriously, I like it that much. I wasn't a huge fan of Book of Souls. That came out in 2015. This, by the way, the first studio album since Book of Souls. And I did mention already that this is the second album where Dave Murray, founding guitarist Dave Murray, was not involved in the writing of any of the songs. He plays on it, but he just was not involved in any of the writing, which is interesting. I would like to know the backstory of that. And it happened once earlier, by the way. This is also an album that has several cuts written only by Steve Harris. So Steve Harris is normally involved in the process, whether it's the lyrics or whatever, but there are several songs that he's the only one cited as the writer of these songs. I want to talk about Bruce Dickinson's performance. Bruce Dickinson, obviously getting older, right? It happens to all of us. I think you hear over the years, his voice is changing. It's a little harder to have that range when you're in your 60s, right? But I think he's managed to sing these songs in such a way, with a few exceptions, as I listen to it, bringing them down a bit in register, that it seems like these will be songs that he would be able to pull off live. Now, having said that, in the very first song, Senjutsu, there is a passage, there's like a bridge part where he's singing really high. And as I heard that, I was thinking, how's he going to do this live? I don't know if he can do it live. Or maybe this is a song that they don't really plan on doing live. But the overall vibe, at least from Bruce Dickinson, to me, sounds like he's being smart about choosing his vocal lines and the melody lines that he writes, because he'll have to recreate these live, and you see on the some of the classic stuff, he struggles to hit those, and that's not a knock against him. I mean, his singing in his prime was top notch, and it's only natural that will be a little tougher for him to do as he gets a little older. But I have to say, I was really pleasantly surprised by this album, and it kind of snuck up on me. I remember hearing a while back that they were starting work on an album, but then all of a sudden, and I'd seen the lead off single of Stratego, and I really dug it. So I did listen to Stratego, and then I just kind of forgot about it. And then all of a sudden, wham, it's Iron Maiden Day. Here's Iron Maiden. Here's the new album. 84 minutes long, double album. So you get your money's worth. It's a good album. So if you're a Maiden fan, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. Even if you're not a Maiden fan, I think you would enjoy listening to this. One of the things that I like about Iron Maiden and this is a guitarist talking here, they've stayed pretty true to that classic metal guitar sound. You know, a lot of bands, as they've, you know, tried to be more modern and keep up with the times and that sort of thing, they'll experiment with different guitar sounds, and they'll just really, really, you know, overdo it on the distortion. And I don't like that. I like that Maiden still has that kind of classic metal sound that sounds like the early 80s. I dig that sound, and they've kind of stuck with that tone, and I really like that. I think that's cool. So, you know, if you have not heard it yet, I would absolutely encourage you to check it out. And that's one of the great things about streaming, right? You could go out to Spotify or Apple Music or whatever and check it out. I've ordered the vinyl, don't have the vinyl here yet. I'm just into vinyl, like getting it on vinyl. So if you want to get the vinyl, you can do that too. But a good album. Another thing I want to talk about while I'm here is the podcast. The podcast, I'll be honest, that's where I've been focusing a lot of my energy over the last few months, and it's been paying off. You know, our downloads are doing well. On listennotes.com, we're ranked in the top 1.5% of podcasts worldwide. So that's awesome. And those numbers just continue to grow. If you haven't subscribed to the podcast, I would recommend you do. I think you'll like it. One of the things that we shoot for on that is to keep it kind of fun, kind of upbeat. You know, some podcasts, man, they're just snoozers, and I'm trying not to get there. So we're doing some production elements that will make it a little more fun. I'm kind of drawing on my experience in radio and radio production to kind of liven things up a little bit. But so far it's gone really well. We're maybe by now we've already passed it, but we're right at about 30,000 downloads. And it's going well. Even have some sponsors coming on board. So that's exciting. So I would invite you to check out the podcast for sure. One of the things we talked about in the last episode, by the way, is we're talking about the Sonic Temple album from The Cure, or not The Cure, from The Cult, that came out in 1989. It's a great album. But we also talked about the passing of two classic rock icons. Over the last couple of weeks, we've lost two really important inspirations, and that is Don Everly of the Everly Brothers and Charlie Watts of the Rolling Stones. The Everly Brothers were such an inspiration to just about all of the British invasion bands. Any of the rock bands that were into harmonies, I guarantee you, were inspired by the Everly Brothers. And so Don passed away at the age of 80. I mentioned this on the podcast. You know, that's just the reality, guys. As these classic rock artists get into their 70s and 80s, sadly, it just means that we'll be losing more of them. So what's our job? Our job is to enjoy them while they're here, enjoy the music that they've left, and celebrate that. And then, of course, Charlie Watts is the other one that we've lost. Charlie Watts, understated, a gentleman, literally a gentleman in the world of classic rock. He always liked to dress very nice, right? Throughout his career, he's very much into fashion. I don't mean weird fashion. I mean like fine type, classy fashion. I shared this on the podcast. One of the best Charlie Watts stories I've heard. One night, Mick calls him up in about 2 a.m., very drunk. He's like, "Where's my effing drummer? I need my effing drummer." Charlie hangs up on him. The next morning, he gets up early, puts on a suit and tie, walks to Mick's hotel room, knocks on the door. Mick opens it. Charlie punches him in the face. And he says, "You never call me that again." He says, "I'm not your drummer. You're my singer." And that just kind of sums up Charlie Watts, one of my favorite stories. But man, just so solid, such a solid beat, nothing flashy, nothing fancy, but just really the backbone of that band, and he will surely be missed. And he is cited by so many drummers as just such a great inspiration. And I think it's because, he served the song. He served the song. Can you imagine any of those Stone songs without Charlie's beat? It wouldn't work. Again, he wasn't flashy. It wasn't about him. And that's a funny thing. In interviews, he'll even say, I prefer not to talk about myself. I mean, he's literally the opposite of your typical rock star. And that's one of the things that I really like about Charlie Watts. And again, he'll be missed. So what a legacy that guy left behind. Well, hey, guys, I just wanted to check in, do a brief chat. If there's no comments from you all, that's great. That's fine. If you do have some comments, share them real quick and we can definitely talk about those things. I do want to invite you to check out the Classic Guitar Rock podcast. We're available on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all of those major platforms are available. Hi, Earl. New album. Yeah, we were talking about the Iron Maiden album. Have you had a chance to hear it, Earl? I'd love to hear your thoughts. I would give it, letter grade wise, I'd give it a solid A-. Is the A- the same as a B+, or is A- better than B? I don't know. I would give it a solid A-. I would put it in my top 5 Iron Maiden albums, probably number 5, right? If you're a Maiden fan, I don't think you'll be disappointed. I definitely like it better than Book of Souls that came out in 2015. Earl hasn't heard it. It just came out. It was either Thursday or Friday that the new album came out. So it just hit. It's on all the streaming platforms if you want to check it out. It's long, double album, but you'll like it. I mean, it sounds enough like the classic Maiden that if you're a fan of the classic stuff, you'll really dig it. And T, yes, I would absolutely check it out. And let me know, let me know what you guys think. You can always, this will be posted in the channel once it's done, but you can always, chime in on any other video or whatever you want to. I have an email address, classicguitarrock@mail.com. You can always email me there. That's classicguitarrock@mail.com. Whether it's about the podcast, whether it's about anything we talk about on the channels, that's great. You can always reach me there. And you know what? I want to say thank you. I'm just a little podunk YouTube channel. I mean, I just do it for fun. I mean, I've never planned on making money. I just do it for fun. I mean, obviously it's low budget, right? I have no production elements going on there, but I have this one video, my Billy Gibbons lazy power chord video, that has, just for whatever reason, the YouTube gods smiled on it. And I'm up to like over 300,000 views on that one video, which just blows me away. Because most of my videos, I'll get, they'll max out at a few thousand views or whatever. This one just continues to rack up the views, and which obviously is nice because it means I make a little money off of them. But so I want to thank everyone for checking out that video. I'm by no means a professional YouTuber, so it's super cool that I got so many views off that one video and continue to get views off of it for whatever reason. It's by no means a masterpiece video, but it's resonated. YouTube is hard to figure out. I mean, you can watch videos about, oh, here's what you got to do to get a lot, and no one knows. It's like a mystery. It's like all of a sudden this one video took off, and I don't know why. And I'm glad it did, but I don't know why that video did. I didn't do anything different than I ever do. I don't think it's any better or worse than any other of my low budget videos, but for whatever reason, it took off, and I really appreciate that. And I want to thank you guys for checking that out. So Iron Maiden, Senjutsu, great album. just a good album. Like I said, top 5. I gave it an A minus. That may change. I've already listened to the whole thing probably 3 times, and I like it a little more each time. So ask me in 6 months what I think of it. Maybe I'll like it even better. But I was pleasantly surprised. I was expecting a Book of Souls, which again is not a bad album, but that's definitely not an A minus. That's a B minus album, probably Book of Souls. This one's better. It's a lot better. And I think especially Maiden fans will not be disappointed. Classic rock fans, you should check it out. In fact, if anything, how do I say this? If there's anything that kept you from being an Iron Maiden fan, and I don't know what that might be. I know I've had friends that weren't wild about Bruce's sometime stratospheric operatic singing, Well, you don't have as much of that on this, probably because you can't do it anymore, right? but maybe you'll like it a little more than some of the old stuff. T, thank you so much. Yeah, I love ZZ Top. ZZ Top is, in fact, the Tres Hombres album. There's an episode about this on the podcast. The Tres Hombres album is in my top 3 albums of all time. And I know every nook and cranny of Tres Hombres. It's just a brilliant album. Billy Gibbons, still to this day, one of my all-time favorite guitarists. And I don't know if you guys have seen this, but it's fascinating to see. We just lost Dusty Hill about a month ago, 3 weeks ago. It's been about a month, I guess. They missed one show. They canceled one show when he had passed away. And Elwood, the guy that's filling in for Dusty, he was filling in for Dusty. So the story is, Dusty played the first couple shows of their current tour, and he literally had to sit down because he's have hip problems. So you can see videos of his last few shows where he's sitting down. And then, he realized, hey, I can't give 100%. And so he had Billy's blessing and Frank's blessing to go to have surgery. So he was in the hospital to have his hip repaired, and he passed away. I don't know all the details. I don't know what happened, but Elwood has been their guitar and bass tech for like 30 years. So he's been with the guys forever, almost like a member of the band. He knows all the songs, right? And so it was really a natural fit for them to move Elwood in to take Dusty's place. And of course, Elwood thought it would just be temporary while Dusty was recovering. Little did he know that Dusty would pass away. Well, he passed away, and now Elwood is playing all the dates. And what was convenient is he just happened to have a long ZZ Top beard. He hasn't over the years. In fact, you can find videos on YouTube, talking about Billy's guitars where it's Elwood and he doesn't have the long bushy beard. Well, now he's had the long bushy beard for the last year or so, and he's got bushy hair, right? And it's funny, if he would put a hat on like Billy, he's about the same size as Billy. So it's kind of striking if he would put the hat on like Billy and you didn't see his bushy hair, it would almost look like there's 2 Billies up there instead of a Billy and a Dusty, right? So kind of interesting. But they've been able to keep going without Dusty, and I don't know what the long-term plan is. Billy's been doing some solo stuff. He's got a couple solo albums out, which sound pretty much like I mean, he wanders a little away from ZZ Top, but let's face it, Billy is really the ZZ Top sound. Obviously, Dusty contributed, Frank contributes, but 70% of what we think of as ZZ Top comes from Billy. And so I don't know if there will be more ZZ Top albums with Elwood or someone else filling that bass role. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. I hope they keep going. I hope they keep doing some things. And in terms of a live experience, the videos I've seen of ZZ Top with Elwood, I mean, It sounds good. Dusty is missed for sure because we don't have Dusty's vocals. Elwood doesn't seem to be doing any singing, so that's kind of limits things somewhat. There's a lot of songs you don't realize it till you see them live, where it's back and forth, right? It's Billy and Dusty both singing. And what I've realized is a lot of the stuff that on the albums was just Billy. When they do them live, Dusty will alternate and sing a lot of them. Cheap Sunglasses is an example. Got Me Under Pressure is an example. Those are all things that Billy sings them all on the albums, but when they do them live, Dusty's trading back and forth and doing a lot of singing on those. And of course, now it's back to just Billy. So I'm sure Billy is missing Dusty in terms of having someone to help with the vocal responsibilities. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for joining me. I just wanted to get back on and do a chat and say hi. Check out the Iron Maiden album. If you ever have any questions or comments, you can always, post those on the YouTube channel or email me, classicguitarrock@mail.com. That's classicguitarrock@mail.com. Any suggestions, complaints, concerns, comments for either the low budget YouTube channel or the podcast, I'd love to hear from you. Thanks so much. And we'll see you. Take care. Bye-bye.